What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. As always, I want to remind you guys that if you want to donate to this channel, if you want to show love to this channel, you can do so in the description box located in this video. Now, I want to talk about a report that I see on Yardbarker regarding the Rockets having had preliminary talks about trading All-Star guard Chris Paul. The article goes on to say that quote, the Houston Rockets have at least looked into the possibility of trading Chris Paul, according to a report. The Athletic's Sham Charania reported Monday that the Rockets have had preliminary conversations about dealing Paul. Those talks are centered around teams who would have the cap space to take on Paul's hefty salary, with the Rockets still owing the point guard roughly $125 million over the next 3 years. There is no indication over just how likely or realistic a Paul deal would be, though Houston's stance publicly has been that Paul isn't a trade candidate. The news comes on the heels of reports that Paul and teammate James Harden clashed frequently this season. But more realistically, Paul is a 34-year-old on a big contract who isn't even the team's lead option. All right. In this article, well, I'll put a link to the description on the article. Now, even though I think Houston publicly has been saying that they're not looking to trade Chris Paul, you got to remember that the Rockets originally were very hesitant to give Chris Paul that deal that they gave him. You know what I'm saying? They were very hesitant to give him that deal. And based upon the fact of his age. I believe Chris Paul next year will be 35 years old. And he has a lot of wear and tear on him. And he is becoming increasingly injury prone. And his production has been declining over the past couple of seasons. So even though their public stance may be they're not looking to trade him, believe me, they are looking at options. You also have to remember the fact that, yes, as the article stated, number one, he and James Harden have had clashes this season, more or less around what style of play would be best suited for the Houston Rockets. Now, when Houston was out, when Houston was down with the injuries to Chris Paul and Clint Capella, okay, you could see why James Harden took over the offense the way he did. And he did bring back the Houston Rockets with his play. But when these individuals came back and he still was playing the same way, ultimately he kind of hurt the team. And as we have stated unequivocally, time and time again, the basketball channels on YouTube know what they're talking about. That style of play just doesn't work well in the playoffs. But this is the thing. James Harden is in the prime of his career. He's the focal point of the offense. Chris Paul gets older every year. So, and you have to also think about the fact that the Houston Rockets see what everybody else is doing in the NBA. Okay? They were the team that thought that they were going to eclipse the Golden State Warriors 2 seasons ago. And that didn't happen. They went all the way to Game 7 and choked epically in monumental fashion in that game. Then last year, they said, okay, we're going to get them this year. This is the year we're going to get them. And then ultimately, in a game where the Warriors didn't even have Kevin Durant, the Warriors somehow won that basketball game and eliminated the Houston Rockets in I don't want to say devastating. Well, I guess it was devastating because that was a game they should have won. But now you see what happened in LA, the monumental trade with Anthony Davis. No one knows what Kawhi is still going to do. So you do have to wonder how the Houston Rockets fit in the grand scheme of things. We've heard the owner, what was it, the owner or the general manager, I can't think which one it is, state definitively that he wants a championship brought to the city of Houston. So you got to think that they're going to be some type of, it may not happen this off season, but I think that, in my opinion, just my sense, you know what I'm saying? My sense is that Chris Paul's days as a Houston Rocket are numbered. I don't know whether or not it's going to happen this off season, but I think sometime during next season, I think Chris Paul will be traded to another team. But of course, the big obstacle with that would be his colossal contract. You know, what team would be willing to take on such a big contract? How would the numbers work? It almost necessitates something like so I'm not the biggest um, numbers guy when it comes to trades and crunching numbers with that aspect of it, but I would think with a contract like his, it might necessitate a third team being involved in a trade or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that Chris Paul's days are numbered because I would eventually begin to think that Chris Paul is going to become disgruntled. Um, and he still has value. You know, he's not the same guy that he was in his, um, in his days with the Clippers and especially with the then New Orleans Hornets. You know, he's not the same guy that he was when he was putting up 23 points, 11, 12 assists, leading the NBA in steals. Back then when they were comparing him to Isaiah Thomas as maybe the greatest, little man in NBA history, or wondering whether he might go down as one of the top 2 or 3 point guards of all time. I remember those days, 2007, 2008. That Chris Paul is no more, but he still is an effective point guard, and he would be a tremendous piece for any team that's a championship level team. But of course, the problem would be, as I just stated, the problem is the contract, and that might be the I hate to use this term because of recent events in the NBA, but this might be the Achilles heel as far as uh, a trade getting done with Chris Paul and uh, uh, a team that he might desire to go to, because the numbers just not going to work. So that's pretty much it. Trying to think of anything else I want to talk about as far as with Chris Paul and James Harden. I think personally, the Rockets fucked up re-signing, or what was it, giving Mike D'Antoni an extension. Look, his style of coaching, look, that system that he has, it's very fun to watch at times. At times, when he had certain teams, it was fun watching the Phoenix Suns back in the day. You know, that team that had, what was it, Steve Nash and Jason Richardson, Sean Marion, Amari Stoudemire. You know, that team, I can't remember, was Jared Dudley on that team? Might have been. That team was fun to watch, but you knew that team wasn't going to win a championship. And when he went to New York, he didn't have the pieces. He failed. He went to LA. That shit didn't work. With the Rockets, unless you're a James Harden fan or maybe a Rockets fan, it's not really fun to watch that team play. You know what I'm saying? It's not fun to watch a guy doing super ISO shit. You know what I'm saying? When everybody else is standing around. It's a horrible, horrible way to think. They can't run that anymore. That's not going to work. Okay? Um, Individually, I know James Harden loved to play that way, padding his numbers and shit, but that's just not going to work. And the Rockets are going to have to do something. They're going to have to alter. They're going to have to make some trades. They're going to have to do something in the offseason, even if it doesn't involve Chris Paul. They're going to have to do something. Really, also, they need to move Clint Capella. They need to move him for someone of personally a higher skill set than Clint Capella. But from what I remember looking at with the Rockets, they have so much money tied up with their top four guys, I think. Chris Paul, James Harden, Clint Capella, Eric Gordon. I think those four guys account for so much of the salary, uh, total salary for the Rockets that they have to, in order to improve, they're going to have to move some of these. It's going to look. I put it like this. It's going to entail some high scientific shit. You know what I'm saying? To get this shit to work, as far as the numbers are concerned, to make some trades. Because if they don't make any changes, in my opinion, this team is going to really get left in the dust next year in the Western Conference. Um, because I think the top teams are going to be the Los Angeles Lakers, and I still don't sleep on the Warriors because even though I think Kevin Durant's going to miss pretty much the entire season, I think Clay will be back sometime at the earliest, around the All-Star break, probably by March. So you still have a lot of basketball left. You know what I'm saying? And Clay's just going to get right back into that flow of things. And I think it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for the Warriors to still win 50 games next year. So, you know, you still have them. I don't know whether they'll be a championship level team playing that long without Durant, but they still will be a really good team. The Rockets, I just don't see it with the team they have right now, them making it to the Western Conference Finals. I don't think it's going to happen. But that's just my opinion. Tell me what you guys think.